Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Absolute Game of Nerds with your non-geek, non-nerd hosts JP and Rohan. And again, we have today a special guest, Justin from SpideyHits, and we're gonna have Rohan give us a great introduction for Justin here. Tell us what he's all about.
I am connected. I guess I was connected to Justin through Manu, our buddy from the 9.9 newsstand. He and Justin do a show together, or it's Justin's show. I think Manu co-hosts on it. So I've watched him through that, and then after we interviewed Manu, I was like, "Oh, we got to get Justin on. He's got a great show." And what's cool about Justin, he is a big comic card guy, and we have not had anyone that is big. He does comics too, as you can see in his back wall. But we haven't talked to anybody about cards yet. So I think this is going to be a fun little interview to do about cards. And if you ever watch Justin's show, I got to say, you got to be probably just the most polite host of any YouTuber I have seen. And it's probably like the Southern, what do they say? The Southern,
Hospitality.
Hospitality, well, kind of, in you. You're always just like so pleasant. Like, I hope everyone's having a marvelous day. And I'm like, this guy's great.
Well, my wife has me saved in her phone as Mr. Dangerous Underwood. So there's not a polite side out there.
There's a bad boy side there.
Do you say bless your heart to people a lot, or?
No, that's like a cuss word around here. We know you don't mean it when you say that.
That's cool.
Well, anyways, Justin, thanks for coming on. We got a lot to talk about, but why don't we start with we always kind of start with an origin story.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that you got a story about your name is SpideyHits. Yeah, I'm sure there's something with childhood and Spider-Man, and kind of give us a little brief rundown of like what got you into all this and how you got here.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of sum up the collection, habits along with the YouTube channel, kind of one origin story. How about that?
Yeah, great.
Yeah. So I'm a twin. I have a twin brother named Dustin, and we grew up in the, very poor side of town. We moved around a lot. By the time I finished ninth grade, I'd been to 7 different schools, 3 different states, multiple divorces, all that kind of instability. But for me and my twin, one of the things that, stayed with us through all the moves was our marble card collection and to some degree our comic book collection. On top of that, huge fan of the X-Men, the animated series, Spider-Man, the animated series. Those were left just serious, indelible marks on my life. I like to share the story where my brother, we were racing home from school in 4th grade, and he beat me home and locked me out of the house. So I literally punched the window out to get in to watch Spider-Man because we couldn't afford it, and the glass left this big scar on my fist. So
that's the dangerous side you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
that's the Mr. Dangerous Underwood side. But anyhow, so Spider-Man and Wolverine, in particular, those two have really just been something I've adored for a long time. Ended up started dating my wife when she was 14. I was 15. Ended up getting married at 19 and 18. And that meant that all I did was work. Took care of my wife, took care of what ended up being our 2 young girls. And it wasn't until about 2017, maybe just a hair before that, started having some space where I could have a hobby of my own that I wanted that wasn't, going to take away from my family. And as I was thinking about what hobby I wanted to be a part of, I had spent 13 years as a real estate appraiser. So knowing how to evaluate, compare, comp was something I wanted to be a part of the hobby. I wanted there to be a value aspect, a collecting aspect where you might see something that people don't yet appreciate that maybe one day you could resell for a lot of money, that kind of stuff. But I didn't want it to be too costly, and I wanted to be able to see it. That's the biggest thing. I wanted whatever I collect, I didn't want to go in a drawer or vault or be somewhere where I couldn't see it. And so I actually said, you know what, I'm going to start collecting action figures. It's not big money or anything like that. And so I started, kind of buying and picking up action figures. And I liked the idea that I could display them. At that point in time, my Marvel, collecting was really, really private. It was not very public. Not a lot of people knew about it outside of close friends. And so I created this Instagram account called SpideyJew09. And I thought of it like a burner account or just like a gamer tag. And Spidey because I love Spider-Man, Jew because that's my initials of my name, and 9 because I'm born in September on the 9th. And so I just made that name and started doing Instagram posts of my action figures. And like, I don't even think my wife followed me. Like, it was just very, very private. I would only follow other, Marvel Legends collector type accounts. And that went on from 2018, 2019, 2020, COVID hits, obviously, like most everyone else. At that time, I started thinking about my personal career, where I'm a banker, and how I was going to need social media to really ramp up to keep my brand presence really strong. And I could see how that was going to be part of the future, but I was pretty nervous about it. I didn't know how to do video at what I would call a higher level of quality that would be engaging. So I thought, you know what? I have this gamer tag out here, this burner account, SpideyGO9. I'll start a YouTube channel with that name, and I'll just do it about Marvel Legends. And I'm going to make 35 videos. And at the end of 35 videos, I'll know how to make YouTube content. And then I can transition that into my business. Well, before I ever got to the end of the 35th video, January of 2021, my twin brother once again said, "Hey, are you realizing that Marvel cards is kind of becoming a thing again?" And I looked into it, and we sat down and recorded my first Marvel card video on the SpideyGO9 YouTube channel, January, I think it was January, maybe first part of February of 2021. That same month, within days, Marvel Masterpieces 2022 came out, which is one of the, if not the premium set for Marvel cards. And I was able to buy into that, which is what you would call more of a modern Marvel card. And then I was all in again because I was rediscovering this, but I was making content around it as well. So my channel began to represent what was happening to a lot of people coming back into the Marvel card space. And I'd already established kind of the culture of the channel. I mean, the very first words on my very first video is, "Hi, I'm Spidey, and I hope you're having a marvelous day." That was day one. And so that began to kind of permeate into the Marvel card space. People that were attracted to that, some people are not, and that's totally okay. But the people that were attracted to that wanted to be a part of it. And as people would come to YouTube looking for Marvel card content, I was probably the guy that was doing it the most consistent, right? And that not only did my collection begin to grow and the channel began to grow, but by May of 2021, I had obtained what most people had considered, or still maybe consider, one of the more valuable cards in Marvel cards, which was the gold PMG precious metal gem of Spider-Man, the 1 of 1. And that card, probably gave me more clout than I deserved as a collector. But that with the channel certainly did that. And, I just began to continue to enjoy the hobby and the content and the community that was around that. And of course, now you fast forward, almost 2 years later, that's the Marvel card hobby, I think, is growing rather strong, even despite some of the headwinds that are there in terms of Upper Deck putting out product consistently with good quality. The channel and the hobby still have continued to grow. So that's kind of my quick little origin story there, all meshed into one. But now I rebranded in 2022 to SpideyHits because I thought SpideyGO9, I thought I would never actually be associated with that in a public way. I didn't want anybody to know who I was. And then I realized, you know what, this isn't going away anytime soon. And so I rebranded to SpideyHits, like I said, I think it was February, March of 2022, and I haven't looked back.
Nice. So a couple things on what you just said. So one was Justin and I had realized when we were in discussions about doing this podcast. So Justin has the same career as my wife. And so when you talk about the whole social media presence, like she's always talking to me about this. Like, I got to do more social media. That way I can get out there. So I feel you on that. Two, I wanted to ask, what was the Marvel card sets that you and your brother grew up on? Because JP and I, we've talked about your upbringing story is very similar to ours and almost most of the people we've interviewed. And we were always talking about how the Marvel series, the Marvel Universe series 1, 2, 3, and then for me also added on the X-Men Universe series 1. Mm-hmm. Those cards were everything to me, child. And like, while I did read comics, I learned most of my knowledge, as we've said before, from those cards. Because you can, Spider-Man has, hundreds of issues. It's, it's been around since the 60s. But you can pick up each one of those cards, read the little blurbs on the back, and you've got a comprehensive story of what Spider-Man. And so it's like they're the most efficient way to gain knowledge into this kind of whole world. So what sets were the ones that you guys had as kids that you were talking about?
Yeah, so probably the one that has the biggest impact in the way that you just described it actually would be Fleer Ultra X-Men from 1994.
Okay.
In 1994, I'm 10, 11 years old, depending on what month during that year, right? And that's when we really started getting into collecting cards, because it was really because we made this move. Like I said, we had many moves. We moved by this friend named Matt, and Matt was already collecting, and his dad would take him to this place called Cards, Coins, and Collectibles, and that's where we were introduced to, well, not only comic cards, but comic books as well, and Wizard magazines. And so from 10 on, or 9 on, it was becoming a regular part of my childhood.
Got it. So then growing up, favorite characters obviously then X-Men, Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
What else we got?
Yeah, so I mean, very much X-Men and Spider-Man. Outside of that, I wasn't really an Avengers fan. Like any kid, like this, big angry Hulk there, here and there, but it was very much Spider-Man, Wolverine for me. And my twin brother, his favorite is Gambit.
Yeah.
Any Punisher in there?
I liked Punisher, but Punisher wasn't on the TV screen. And I mean, he was in the cards, but the shows really kind of brought those two worlds together and really created that love for me.
What's funny is I remember the X-Men show. I watched that, but I don't remember the Spider-Man show. I remember the
Spider-Man show was huge for me.
But there was a Spider-Man show where he had like a weird shaped head.
Yeah, this is not it. It's fantastic. It's still good viewing today. I've watched it with my daughter. Christopher Daniel Barnes.
Yeah, I forget the one that came out when my kids were probably early 2000s. He had not a weird shaped head, but a specific shape on his head that they drew.
Yeah, like a point. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was not the one you're talking about. This was like I remember the show from the 80s, but there was a Spider-Man Adventures from the 90s.
Show from the 80s. You're likely talking about the one that had Iceman and
Firestar.
Oh, what's her name? Firestar.
Yep.
Not that at all. Don't even know if I've ever watched a complete episode of any of that ever.
Yeah, it's on Disney Plus, but yeah. It takes me back, but I got to watch the one you're talking about, because that one was the Spider-Man Adventures, right? Is which it's called?
I think it's just called Spider-Man the Animated Series. It was on Fox. It was on Fox.
Yep, that's the one I watched. Yep, it was on Fox. For me, it was like 3:00 in the afternoon. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's super awesome. If you haven't watched it, you really should. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And then so actually I wanted to talk about this. I actually just watched last week your video on that gold PMG card that you're talking about, the 1 of 1. And you said you traded for it, right?
I bought it.
Oh, you bought it. Okay. How did you even go about finding, a card that's 1 of 1? How did you even find that?
I didn't. It found me on the YouTube channel. Someone left me a comment and said, "Hey, enjoyed the video. By the way, I have the 1 of 1 gold PMG. Do you think I should get it graded? And with which company?" And I was like, "Yes, you should get it graded." And that's a really special card. And then anyhow, we ended up connecting on Instagram with him and his wife. He actually didn't have a social media account. So his wife had to reach out to me through her Etsy account, or Scentsy, the candle selling, account that she had. And so I was very kind of suspicious. Is this real? Because I was at that time, the green PMG Spider-Man had just sold for $36,000. The gold 2015 gold PMG Spider-Man had just sold for $28,000. And that's the reason the person found my video. Like, they were doing Google searches about the card, or YouTube searches about the card, and they found my video where I was talking about these sales, this auction that happened, a golden auction. And, thankfully, the person also was in the Marvel Legend action figure, so my channel had that nice mix and connected. Him and his wife really liked the content and liked me. We got to know each other, and he said, "Hey, I want to sell this card to you." And I said, "Hey, I can't afford it. Like, this card belongs in an auction for some rich person to buy." And he was like, "You know what? Tell me what you can offer." And I said, "Well, this is what I can offer, and my wife not divorce me." And he slept on it, and him and his wife called me the next day and said, "Yeah, we want you to have it."
That's awesome. Is that card accessible at all right now that you could show?
No, it's not accessible. So actually, later that year, so at that time, I'm not going to get into the numbers with.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Totally fine. Yeah, totally fine.
But at that time, the card was obviously worth something. Obviously, had some value in the $20,000-$30,000 range. If it was graded, it was not graded. It was raw. So cut that down however you might think you would cut it down. And we were both had the same knowledge. What happened for the rest of the year is the market went absolutely nuts. And by December, a red out of 100 PMG sold for $72,000. So this was the gold 1 of 1. And long story short, somebody showed up, offered an insane amount of money for it. And I talked to the previous owner. We both came to an agreement, and the majority of the ownership of the gold 1 of 1 was sold. So I still retain a small bit of ownership, but it's actually inside of what you might call a master PMG collection that's like totally complete, including the 1 of 1. And if I want access to it, I can just call and say, hey, I want to take it to a show, and I'll take it to a show or whatever. And if they were to ever sell it, I would still have some benefit of that sale.
Got it. So is that collection, you said it's accessible to you, is it in Louisiana then, obviously?
It's in various places whenever they move it around the country, but primarily it sits in California. But like when I was in Atlanta, I had it. When I was in New York, I had it. So if I want to take it to a show or something, I can do that.
So how do you set up this? What do you have to set up an LLC to split ownership of it? How does that work?
Yeah, we created it. We created an agreement with it. That's right.
Okay. Okay.
So it's not like the fractional ownership like you buy in, on these sites and stuff like that. It's just between two people.
Two people, but then you said a third person came into it, or it's just you and the original owner?
Just me and one person. No, but I just wanted the original owner to also benefit in that sale. Let me just say that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Tell us about
like lunch money that helping out. He's doing good things. That's good. Yeah, I like it.
When somebody offers you that kind of money, it's hard to look your wife in the face and say, "No, I'm going to keep the trading card." Right. She's like, "What? The piece of cardboard?" We could send our daughter to college and buy both cars. Why don't we not do that?
Yeah.
Right. So. Yep.
So if that would be your number 1, Justin, would your number 2 be the AF-15 comic clipping card?
Oh, the gold PMG as like favorite card, not even close to my favorite card. That's the interesting part. When I got it in hand, obviously it was special. Like, there's no doubt about that. But once I put it in a display, I could never really have it like as my centerpiece. There was no nostalgia connection to it as a kid, in the sense of like the image of it. The image is good. It's not great. I'll give you an example of one in a second. But it never really resonated as like the centerpiece of my collection. I think the beauty that card held for me was realizing the power of being in creation. Like you guys are creating a podcast right now. And what did it do? It created the opportunity for us to connect and now to have a relationship and for us to learn from one another. And had I not ever pressed record, which was pretty scary for me, the opportunity to own that card would have never created itself. So that's really more of what that card meant for me. But in terms of like my favorite cards, yeah, it's not in my top 5.
Ah, all right. So let's talk about what would be in your top 5. I'm very curious.
Yeah. So do you want me to show you?
Yeah, if you got them available, okay. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I have to move around a little bit here. That's why I came in this room instead of the other one. So let me do this. Go to camera and swap back camera. All right. So this is the current display, and look, I'm not one of those people that's the same thing all the time. Like it's probably a product of moving around a lot. Like I'm constantly rearranging and redoing what may or may not be in the center of my display. So right now, my favorite card is definitely the AF-15 comic cut. It got a pristine 10, all 10s except for 195 on the corner, which is likely because of this bottom left corner here. But what makes this card really special for me is because when Spider-Man Metal was coming out, it was announced well over a year before its actual release. And it was something I was very excited, had a lot of anticipation for. And I wanted to get one of these cuts, and I'll show you one other thing that I really wanted to receive as well. But when Upper Deck did their e-pack announcement, and that may confuse your viewers, it's not digital. No, there's physical cards. They doubled the price that I was anticipated. And when they doubled the price, I actually decided to not buy into that product on Upper Deck's e-pack. And what I was telling you is that I honored myself and created alignment. And in long story short, what I wanted still came to me. I still was able to accomplish and get what I wanted here, which was this comic cut. And so I'm really, really proud of how that all came together. So this is number one. Number two would be this John Romita Sr. So you guys know who John Romita is?
Of course.
Famous for drawing Spider-Man for many years, creator of Punisher. He was mentioned earlier. So this card is from 2001 when no one cared about Marvel cards. It was at a time when Topps actually had the license to produce Marvel cards. And they produced this set called the Marvel Legends set. And John Romita drew this sketch card. They put it in a pack and somebody pack pulled it. This is a pack pulled 1-of-1 sketch card by John Romita Sr. And so to me, it's super cool.
Yeah, that's rad.
I had alarms set to remind me to be on the show, and they were going off. Sorry, for 8 o'clock. So I just got these back from CGC, and it says SpideyHits collection on it, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I heard you said last night on your show that you can get that label but just by adding another $5.
Yeah, you can create a pedigree.
Where's the label at?
It's on the back of the card.
Okay. So you said the one that you have, the Amazing Fantasy book, there's a 10 on there at CGC. So I don't know much about cards and grading them. Again, I'm new back into collecting, like we talked about earlier. But I knew about CGC when I left the hobby. So I understand more about it now. But the cards look like CGC and PSA. I think they're all comparable. It's not like CBCS versus CGC. Is that correct?
I mean, there's a little bit of that. Some of it is who you ask and what cards in the slab. But example, this CGC 10. I mean, this is a comic book panel, an actual panel from an Amazing Fantasy. This is the second time in the book where Spider-Man is in the suit, but it's the best panel of him kind of full profile up close, right? This card should sell and is the same value if it was in the CGC 10 or PSA 10. There's only one with this panel, period. There's only 15 of these cards in existence, period. So you see in the back here, there's only 15.
So that was going to be my question. Have all 15 been found?
No, we only know about 8 or 9 of them.
And those come in a Spider-Man metal box, right? Is that the correct?
Yep.
So
Marvel Metal Universe Spider-Man is the technical name.
Is there like a specific year of that box?
Only 1 year. 2022 is when it actually released, but it's technically called 2021.
Because I've seen on Target.com or something, you can get a box potentially for $30. So that would be the box you would buy, and then you would just obviously hope to get lucky.
Well, that box is what you would call the retail box. In the retail boxes, there is rumor that there's one in the retail box. The rest were in the hobby boxes, which are much more expensive. Those are probably $400 to $500 right now for 12 packs.
Got it. And then you said how many have been found?
8 or 9 of them that I'm aware of.
Okay.
This card back here, this is a 1995 Marvel Metal Spider-Man. So this is one that has a lot of nostalgia for me as a kid. But this card actually came out of X-Men Metal. It's called a buyback. So Upper Deck, the company, went and bought boxes of the 1995 Marvel Metal. They stamped them, numbered them to 10, and put this buyback stamp on the back, that gold stamp, and then reinserted it in the packs. So there's only 10 of these in existence.
Oh.
But this card's actually from 1995, and it's the first year of the metal product, even the first year before sports that I'm aware of anyways.
Real quick, JP, just I want to let you know. So going back to that AF-15 card, there's a video from Justin's show where they're opening packs and is it Alonzo? Is that his name?
Yeah,
Justin?
Louis Alonzo. That's correct.
He is opening a pack, and he gets one of the AF-15 cards. And like everyone just like goes crazy. The shame of that video is, Justin, is that your face is not on screen when he pulls it out.
I know, man. That night, there was a weird technical thing where the camera that I use for opening cards was the camera that worked my mic. So if I was not the one opening cards, I couldn't show my face. And it just happened, but you can certainly hear my voice.
Yeah, it's great, Jay, because you'll see like they open the pack and you can tell there's like a different card in there. He's like, oh, we got something. And he kind of slides it. He's like, red border. Justin's like, the AF-15 card has a red border. And then he like opens it up and like everyone, I think there's 3 other people on the street. Everyone just starts like clapping and like losing. It's great. It's fantastic.
It is a really special moment. And so I'll show you. Let me show you. This is a 2013 red PMG. When I said there was a card that sold for $72,000, it was actually a version of this, but in a PSA 9. And I actually really adore this card. It's the first year that they did precious metal gems for Marvel, and they're really awesome. This red one is an example of what the gold one looks like. The gold one was just like this one, but I really like this red on red here.
Yeah, red. So can you explain what PMG? So I'm assuming that means it's a card that's not part of like the base set.
Yeah, you see how this says precious metal gem here at the top? Can you see that? Is that focusing? And it's also here as well. So precious metal gems came out in 1996-97 basketball, and that's the rookie year of Kobe Bryant, and one of the last significant years for Michael Jordan. They put they did 100 PMGs per player in that set. It was a parallel to the base set, I believe, and the first 10 cards were green, the last 90 were red. The green PMGs of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant from that year sell for over $1 million, or have sold for over $1 million. Who knows what they sell for today? So this would be the first time that ever happened for Spider-Man.
Wow.
And so this card, it's if you like shiny cards, and a lot of people do, some people don't. That's fine. But this is as shiny as it gets, and it's the first ever PMG for Spider-Man, who in effect is the Michael Jordan of Marvel cards.
Yeah, definitely.
Comics.
So question on that, the Jordan card that would sell for $1 million, would that need to be graded 10 for it to get that higher price?
I think the Kobe Bryant that sold for somewhere in that neighborhood was like a PSA 6. There's only 10 of them.
Yeah,
so
okay.
If you want to have a master collection or even one of those athletes, you got 10 shots. So I actually helped broker the sale of the green version of this card raw, and it sold for $255,000.
Wow. It's crazy to think that these cards are almost fetching more than comic books.
Yeah, I mean, you could get quite a few AF-15s for that price. So why would anybody do that? And it's just, people collect different things. They don't all collect AF-15s. I can tell you that I could sell this and get an AF-15. And I have this, but I don't own an AF-15. So it's like, why would you do that? Well, there's only 15 of these.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys may be aware of how many graded AF-15s there are. I can't remember if it's 1,000 or 2,000, but
there's 3,000 graded AF-15s.
It's not rare, and so it depends on how you look at it.
Did Alonzo? Did he keep his or did he sell his?
Oh yeah, no, he still has his. I think I would sell mine before he would sell his. He's crazy about it.
Got it. Okay, so I remember this shelf in one of your videos, and then. What's below that? I remember you saying these are like a sample set or a test slabs, or I can't remember what you call them.
Yeah, so this is actually really cool. So I actually was fortunate to be significant in helping kind of put the pieces together that got CGC to grade Marvel cards. And because of that, I was able to be involved when they were getting started, and they took my cards and they graded them as the first cards that they graded and that they used for the initial advertising that they rolled out. And so these will forever be the first CGC graded Marvel cards. And So,
and they were your personal collection cards.
correct. And so other than these, there's back here that say samples. Those come from New York Comic Con. So on the back it says New York Comic Con. So those are kind of exclusives. Everything else you see is those test slabs. And if you go back and watch the CGC advertisement or videos, you'll see this Joe Jusko Pristine 10. You'll see this Amazing Spider-Man 300 that's signed here by Jim, how do you say it, Salstrup, who helped with the ASM 300. You have this 1995 Marvel Masterpieces here. You've got the beginnings. This is a comic cut from ASM 3, the first appearance of Doc Ock. It's kind of cool. Spider-Man's going, holy mackerel, what's that?
Yeah, that's a cool card.
And, so you got Thor from Marvel Masterpieces, and of course you got the 1996 very famous set from 96 here from Julie Bell, Boris Vallejo, Venom there. So some really cool cards and examples of that. And then one of the prized possessions is this.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this.
This is the 16-panel Comic Cut Achievement. So on Upper Deck's E-Pack, you had to complete every one of the achievements that were available, and I think there was 8 or 9 of them. And an achievement means, let's say there was 50 cards in an insert or a subset, you had to get all 50 to complete one achievement. We had to complete every example of the achievements, and the first 5 to do so got an exclusive comic cut of the cover of one of the top 5 Spider-Man books. And I was able to acquire the ASM 300, which is one of the top 5. In fact, it was actually the first one that was achieved.
So real quick on that, can you explain what an E-Pack is?
Yeah, I knew if I keep saying that, I was going to have to do that. So E-Pack is a website. Let me get down here. So E-Pack is a website that Upper Deck owns. When they release product, they release it physical, and then they allow you to buy those packs online on E-Pack. So you're actually opening the packs and you're actually getting the actual cards, and they stay in this vaulted state in your account, and you can trade them and you can use them to complete achievements, and then you can mail them home.
Got it. So you had to be in the first 5 to complete this list of
it basically means you had to spend somewhere between $40,000 to $100,000, depending on how well you could trade, to be able to accomplish the achievement. And this was the first one that was accomplished.
Got it. And so did they come to you? I don't actually, in that video you showed, they come to you raw, and so you've since got them graded.
I did. That's right. And my favorite panel, obviously, is the face. We got a 9.5. In honor of Manu, we got the newsstand 9.5.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
Okay, so I have a couple questions for you about grading. So do you have a preference to a grading company when it comes to cards? Is it CGC?
Depends on the card. If it's a 90s metal base or a metal card, I'm going to PSA. But if it's something that's more comic in style, it's definitely going to CGC.
Okay, and then I've just been starting. I told you I was talking to you about I wanted to start. I'm gonna start collecting some Silver Surfer cards. So I'm starting to learn about the card grading system. So PSA only does whole numbers, and that's still correct, right? They don't do like a 9.5. They just do 9, 10, 8, 7, 6. Correct?
Not true. This is an 8.5.
Oh, okay. They do. Okay.
Yeah, and they don't have a 9.5, so it's 10 or 9, and that's one of the geniuses of PSA, because they're a 9.5, and I'm not a grader, so let's make sure people who are listening here understand that. And what I mean by that is I can't look at a raw card and go, it's going to get this grade, okay? But generally speaking, a 9.5 scale could still get a PSA 10 if it's a true 9.5 to scale. PSA puts, my understanding, they put some emphasis on things that maybe other grading scales do or do not, but most of the hobby has a greater respect for a PSA 10 as opposed to a 9.5 and a CGC slab.
Got it. And then with CGC, they have the pristine 10 like you have on that one. And then they have a perfect 10. I assume if you get all 4 of those 10s, correct?
They have a perfect 10, which is similar to Beckett, right? So Beckett owns CBCS. So that's where most of the comic community is familiar with Beckett. But Beckett has their own slabs, and they grade in a similar fashion as CGC, where they have this black label 10, which is perfect. And then they have a gold label 10, which means you got 3 10s and a 9.5. But then they have their 9.5, which is considered a gem, which is the same thing you would call a PSA 10. And depending on who you talk to, some hold that the Beckett 10 and black label 10 is, the best example of a perfect grade. And that's why, even though Beckett is not as respected as PSA, and to me, in some ways, depending on who you're talking to in the Marvel card space, not even as respected as CGC, even though they're kind of new on the block. But a black label Beckett typically supersedes all of them and what it would sell for.
Okay, and so then on that, like you can see it right there on your AF-15 card. You got the main grade, and then I saw when I was going through CGC's website for grading, you can add on those subgrades of 4 additional numbers for an extra $15.
Yep.
Is that do people prefer that, having the subgrades on there? Does that add more value?
I don't think so. I mean, like this card here, I did not do subgrades, and I don't think I'd get any less for it. I don't think if this one had subgrades, it would get any less. And I think some people would prefer aesthetically for it not to be there. And so it is a matter of preference. If it's a base card, meaning the card doesn't bring significant inherent value to it, then yes, I do think subgrades can help you.
I thought it was, relative to the cost to grade a card, I thought $15 was quite expensive relative to what it would cost to, because it was like $24 to grade the card, and then it's like, the subgrade is $15 more. I was like, that's kind of a big add-on, I figured, relatively.
I mean,
like having on the quick, what do you call it, whenever you CGC, if you want to get it done in
fast tracking
at $15. So yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Before 2021, like going back to even before 2022, I mean 2020, you're looking at like $5-7 to grade a card. One of the reasons why the prices have been where they are is because if they drop them that much lower, they would get such a flood of cards to grade that they wouldn't be able to withstand the onslaught. If you don't know this, in February 2021, PSA shut down the post office in California. They've received so many submissions. So they had to raise, even just the regular tier of grading, they had to raise it to like $150 a card to get people to stop sending them in.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's why. So just give it some time and you can get back into it and start sending them in to grade.
Well, you just saw so much growth in the hobby, and everybody's looking around in their box of cards and goes, well, I see these selling for X number of dollars on eBay. Heck, it costs $10 a grade. I'll send this in and turn it into $100.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about the cards and about, you can compare the cards, the newer ones, to variant covers. And when I go through like a long box at an antique store or at a flea market, I'm seeing all these variant covers. I have no idea which one is worth more over the other one, because to me, if it's McFarlane doesn't do variant covers, but Art Adams did a bunch of them for DC. Various other people do them. So you're like, oh, wow, this looks great. I'd buy it because I like the cover, but I don't know if it's more valuable than the other one. So with the cards are the same way. Like, it seems like the newer cards are coming out. There's so many different to choose from for me, I find it to be daunting to get back into it, to know which one would be, which one to get, except, the AF-15 or that gold one you're talking about that comes in the pack. But there's so many to choose from and there's so many, just the nuances to it. Silver Age is Silver Age, Golden Age is Golden Age. But when you get to these modern books, I think like that's what's daunting for me, is the task of trying to figure out which ones are worth what and which ones to collect, because there's so many different variations.
Well, that's why, if you stick with the classics, right? So you recognize this one?
Yep,
yeah, I recognize that one.
That's Joe Jusko from 1992, Marvel Masterpieces, the first year Marvel Masterpieces was ever done. The pop on this is still like less than 50, even though it's super classic. I mean, as a kid, I drew it. As a kid, that's
nice.
My childhood Spawn and Spider-Man there. And so this is classic. So if you stick with what you know and what you love, you should be fine when you're starting out. It's when you're trying to jump into, the deep water and you haven't learned to swim yet. That's when you get in trouble, right? Yeah. And I think as you ease yourself back into the hobby and you're watching videos like this, you're having conversations with people, you will begin to pick up on, you know, what people are attracted to and what they're willing to spend money on. But it can be a rather steep educational curve that you have to learn.
And I don't see many places where cards are available, because I do antique stores and flea markets, and I don't think I've seen the cards at either. Not that maybe I missed them because I wasn't looking for them. I know they're not at antique stores. Sports cards are, but I haven't seen Marvel cards.
And that actually I was gonna ask that question. You said like when you want to take that gold PMG to a show, you can get it. What are because I don't see any Marvel card booths at the. I mean, I've only been to a few Comic Cons, but I don't ever see a Marvel card booth at any of them. So what shows are you going to get cards?
Well, I go to the Dallas Card Show, which is a no-brainer, right? It's a card show. But there are comics there, but it centers around sports cards primarily. Go to the Atlanta Culture Collision, which is, you know, a mix of, you know, Marvel cards, comic books, sports cards, a lot of sports cards, but TCG as well. And then I've been to New York Comic Con, was able to work a booth there. New York Comic Con had a really big presence, had, you know, a lot of very expensive cards on display there. And, you know, it's just, you know, MegaCon will happen soon, and there will be a bunch of Marvel card people there. Whether or not they'll have booths, I don't know. You have Heroes Con, is it Heroes Con? Yeah, Heroes Con in Charlotte. Yep. We had a Marvel card booth there last year, and still talking about having one this year. But the cons have not been something that Marvel card collectors have done a lot of outside of some specifically non-sports events like in Pennsylvania. And I think the reason is if you were to walk into a comic book shop, maybe not now, but even a year ago, if I would walk into a comic book shop and say, "Hey, do you have Marvel cards?" I would get laughed at. Like, yeah. There was one time, it's such a funny scenario. I have the gold one-of-one Spider-Man in my backpack, and I go, "Hey, man, do you happen to have any Marvel cards in the back?" Because, you know, don't have them out front typically. And he goes, "Oh, those things are worthless." And I just giggled because I had this thing in my backpack, and I was like, "It's no use even pulling it out." Like, this guy's super convinced. And I just went on my way. But that has been the attitude. And I can't say I blame the comic book store owners, because they spent the 2000s with people coming in with their shoebox full of their 90s cards trying to unload them on them. And they were worthless in a sense. And so I don't begrudge them for having that opinion. It's just a lack of education, because not a lot of people understand the history or the story of Marvel cards after 1996.
Yeah, I mean, I would have never guessed. I would have thought Marvel cards weren't even being made after the 90s. So, you know.
Yeah, but this was.
Yeah.
This was.
Totally, yeah. So then I have a question I was thinking about. So, you know, I'm not a big modern comic collector, but when it comes to modern comics, when you get them graded, it's kind of like you want to get that 9.8 or it's bust, because there's just otherwise too many copies of them. So when it comes to cards, you know, provided it's not one of these cards, it's like 1 of 15 or 1 of 50.
Right.
Is it kind of like 10 or bust?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
For the modern cards, not the 90s cards, like the Series 1, Series 2.
If it is not a 10 in a Series 1, Series 2, it's almost not worth the grade. You know what it paid to grade it.
Yeah, and that's why, like, when I am looking to like buy these Silver Surfer cards, it's like I'm not even really looking at raw cards, because it's like if I don't get a 10, it's like pointless. So it's like it's not that much more expensive to just look for the 10s.
Well, let me ask you the question. We talk on here, low grade is better than no grade, right? Or not having it, right? Not having the book. So I mean, if you could find, I bought it. You guys remember the Bo Jackson card where he had the bat and okay. So I never got that card growing up. Like, I couldn't get it. I don't know why. I'm sure it was reasonably priced, but for whatever reason I couldn't get it. I'm sure it was $50 or something at the time because it was hot. I bought it on eBay a couple months ago for like $10. It's not graded, but I mean, now I have it, right? And it's not that valuable. So like, if you like the Silver Surfer, why does it matter to get the graded one over just getting a raw one to put in a you know, plastic, you know, these are cheap to buy, the plastic cases, right?
I mean, I think the thing is right, like, if I go on eBay, let's just say, and I buy a raw card, it'll probably be, we'll say $5 to $10. I mean, again, we're not talking about these rare, super rare.
Right.
One. It'll be, let's just say $5 to $10, maybe 15, depending on what card it is. But I've already scored 2 PSA.
If you're going to get it for $10 more graded, that's a different story.
That's my point. It's like,
if you're getting it for like $1, then I'm like, well, then what's the difference? Like, I got that one X-Men card for $1 shipped for free. Because it comes in a postage stamp, or like a little.
I think from my perspective, it's just like I want a nice small collection of Silver Surfer cards, and a graded 10 card is not nearly as expensive, like as for the ones that I'm looking at, as like a 9.8 ASM 300, right? And so it's like, I could pay a little bit more, and now I have like the 10, so it's like it has a little bit of value to it. Whereas like I can get any card, and it doesn't really have much value. So, even though I do agree, like I do want to own a piece of history when it comes to like major first appearances and things like that. With the cards, it's kind of like, it's nice. I think, I kind of want to have a little value behind it as well still.
I mean, again, the cards were from the 90s, so there isn't like it's that long ago that it couldn't be preserved, like a 1939, whatever, 1990 Honus Wagner card, right?
Yeah.
Like raw there. And these books you're talking about, or these cards you're talking about here, cost as much as that.
Yeah.
Or close to a Honus Wagner. That's crazy.
So if you're just wanting to complete a set and have it in your binder, then yeah, like, the gray, who cares, as long as it's, condition that when you look at it, you still enjoy it. But I think that if you're doing it because there is an aspect of you would like to resell it one day, the grade absolutely matters.
Yeah.
And if it's in the era of the 90s when things were overprinted, then it better be a gem mint or bust, because there's plenty of 9s, 8s, and 7s out there, right? It's the 10s that matter.
So what about, I see I go to an auction weekly, and I've seen some Superman cards from the 70s and Star Wars cards.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the printing run, like you said, the 90s were overprinted, but so finding a gem mint is the way to go. Now, is there certain cards from that other era?
I was just going to ask you about these cards, Justin. Does it go ahead? You just pulled it out. Yeah, so JP, that 1966 Don Russ set, right?
Mm-hmm. That's it. So this is the first time that a Spider-Man ended up on a trading card. So this would be like his first appearance on a trading card. This is a PSA 8. There's been 5,000 plus of these cards graded from this set, and there's still only like 33 8s of this card.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is you don't have to hype this up. I mean, this is it. This is vintage, quintessential Spider-Man here. I mean, it was 4 years after this panel was created, which I think is really cool. Where these cards are much newer.
So the grade, again, the higher the grade, the better, obviously. But finding a 10 in that Donruss set is harder to do because of the era. So
not necessarily. It depends on the quality of the condition of the card when it was coming out. Getting a 10 in this is actually harder. This has like a 2% gem rate.
Yeah. JP, real quick, just so you have a little info on that set, because I've been talking to Manu about it a lot. So the card set is 66 cards. It's 6 characters. They each have 11 cards. It's Spider-Man, Hulk, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and who's the 6th one? Daredevil. It's a really cool set. Like if you want to ever like look it up, this is like something that I know I've talked to Manu a lot about. He's collecting these, anything PSA 8 and above. And he was telling me that there are unopened boxes of these cards out there. So potential untouched cards.
From 1966.
From 1966. He's looking for them. He hasn't found any, but he says there definitely are some out there. Right, Justin?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. There's no doubt. There's absolutely no doubt.
I never knew there was any Spider-Man cards prior to the 90s. And as I go to this auction, I've seen, like Superman and Star Wars, but I'm sure there would have been cards for anything, but that 66 Donruss, I never even heard of it. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, I never heard about it until I started following Manu, and then we started talking about it.
Because cards were my first. Is that another one of your drawings right there?
No, that's Simone Bianchi. He's one of the world's most popular Marvel artists. This is a commission he did for me at New York Comic Con in the Secret Wars pose, the first appearance of the symbiote suit. And in fact, he's the one who just did the variants for Tide on the Spawn cover. But yeah, he's a great artist. But I was going to show y'all some different stuff. I don't mean to change the subject. I was just going to show.
No, that's all right. I thought you drew that. I was going to say, heck of a drawing you got there, Justin.
Hey, real quick, Justin, can I ask you one more thing about some cards you had?
Yeah.
In that sample set you have of CGC. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you've got, are those like the Jim 83, the Ghost Rider, the GSX, the Silver Surfer one? Or is that 1984 first comic?
No, these are 2012, 2011 Marvel Beginnings.
Okay.
And it's very similar. Marvel Beginnings is a trading card set that focuses on the history of the characters. And so there's a subset in there where they do their first appearance covers. And whenever I was sending cards in that I thought CGC would want to showcase as, just the first appearance of Thor, right? Journey into Mystery. I thought it would cross over well in terms of people understanding it for comic book collectors. So I chose 4 of those cards to go in that. No, 5 actually, because I got the Amazing Fantasy back there too.
Okay, yeah.
To go with those samples.
Now these ones that were the first graded cards by CGC.
Mm-hmm.
Are they pedigree labeled and all? Or
no, they're not. But I do have not only the packing slip that came with it that's dated, that predates their announcement. It's also in the advertisement.
Okay.
You can see the grades and the numbers.
Would you have to sell the entire collection if somebody wanted to get the first ever graded? If that was something that they wanted, would you have to sell them all with that packaging and all that stuff?
I don't think you would have to. I think you could say like the character collector who collects Venom would want a Venom one, who wants the Wolverine might want the Wolverine, and the Thor might want the Thors.
And they'll just know that from the advertisement or from the package. I mean,
I would probably make copies of the packing slip and send it to them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could also do it as a collection too. But I mean, this Marvel Beginnings, this is a pack pulled auto that also got a 10. This card is actually very, very difficult to get in a 10. Very fortunate to have it.
That's like the cards. It's so hard to. I mean, I know it. I never think any comic I have is a 9.8, let alone a card to be a 10. Just a straight 10.
It's not straight paper either. There is a cardboard aspect of it. So you can think about it as those covers that are much more durable. I can't think of the name of them. That the Batman covers that always get a 10. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah. Yep.
So this is made of similar stock, and that's why those 10, and why these have the ability to 10 as well.
And that type of stock, it's either a 10 or not, right? If something's messed up, you can't press it out or something, right? There's
pressing is very much frowned upon. That's considered altering.
Okay, that was maybe a question I had.
So you can do that with comics, but not with the cards.
Yeah.
Well, it's a different nature because comics are meant to be read, and there are defects that actually don't damage the book that you can press out. And look, I think there's probably a little bit of gray area for comics. I don't press comics, so let me not talk about something I don't understand. But it's not the same. You can't think of it.
Well, right, but a card can come off center from the factory.
Yeah. That's what I was getting at. So Justin, can you talk about that a little bit? So with a comic, if it's like miscut, CGC won't ding you for that, but on a card, they will.
Absolutely, and they should, because these cards they're printed in sheets, and then they cut these sheets to create the card, right? And so if these sheets are not going into the cutter correctly at the right angle or whatever, they're gonna miscut the cards, and that's just part of what makes getting a PSA 10 or a CGC 10 or 9.5 so special, because they often don't get cut correctly.
So yeah, it just adds to the rarity, I guess, then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these cards are notorious for not being centered.
Yeah.
And so that's why there's not as many 10s.
So on the 1991 Impel Marvel Universe set, so on all those cards they have 5 holograms that come with it. And
Sure.
so I have, you know, series 1, 2, and 3 complete with all the holograms. And I was looking the other day, I was at my series 1 holograms, and I was like, man, the corners are sharp, straight, glossy. I was like, are these potential 10s? And then I started doing more research and, you know, learned about the centering and stuff. And I looked at them, I was like, no, I don't think any of these are perfectly centered. So I was like, no, I'm not gonna
They're
like
so off centered, man. So
yeah.
bad.
And so it's like, and this is what comes back to, it's like, for me, it's like, I feel like I would just rather buy the graded one versus like take the chance of sending my own card in and it getting an 8.
Just so you know, those series 1 hollows, they're in the single digits of PSA 10s, and people have sent tremendous amounts of them in to get graded.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some 9s on eBay, and so I've yet to see a 10 in the hologram one.
Yeah, they're rare, and I know where most of them live because there's so few of them.
Yeah, I think I saw the Wolverine one, a 10 sold for like $7,000 recently or something like that.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Wolverine, which one? The Wolverine from the series 2?
Series 1, the hologram. It's they have in the set, one of the Wolverine cards is the same exact card.
Do you know who drew that card?
I don't.
Jim Lee.
Oh, okay. I didn't know Jim Lee did any of that series 1 stuff.
You sure did. Actually.
Yeah, but actually, now that I think about it, it looks like the Wolverines he drew because he always drew him with the brown suit, and it had a Jim Lee. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
It's
original art. It was original art made for that set. It's not a reused comic book art.
Original art for that set. Okay. Kind of like the X-Men series that came out in 91. It was all Jim Lee stuff. It was all original.
Exactly. Yes, this example.
That's Wolverine. That is my outside of, so I love Hulk 181, and that's like my favorite comic book cover. But outside of that card is my favorite depiction of Wolverine I've seen.
So I had the
Jim Lee. How much does that card go for?
This is just an 8. This is nothing. This just happened. This is just one of the ones I submitted in the CGC submission.
Now, if you had a 10, what's it worth?
Oh, probably a couple $100. But I had the auto. I had the auto in a PSA 9, and it sold for $5,000.
Auto?
Oh, so it was signed by Jim Lee?
Pat pulled. Yep.
Oh.
In 1992.
Oh, I didn't even know they had autos in that set.
Oh, it's beautiful. On-card autos, yes.
Oh. So how does that work? For cards signed, does CGC work the same way as comic books where they have to witness it for it to get like a gold label? Or
so you got to be really careful. Not every card that's signed was pack pulled. So you got to do your homework before you start dropping money on that. These have a stamp that's embossed, and you have to get the card in the right light to see it's like a notary almost. Notary stamp. So if it's signed and it doesn't have that stamp, it's not authentic. And even then, somebody could try to fake that, but you got to be really careful.
Okay, so if you got that graded by CGC and it had that embossed mark, they'd honor that.
See how that's correct? See how this one is signed?
Yeah.
And it got a blue label because it was pack pull signed. But if you see the Todd autos that are coming out, Todd McFarlane that just did all of the signing, those are getting a yellow label because they were witnessed and signed.
Got it.
Can you get a green label? Is that
blue? So I'll give you an example. So this card here is signed by the creators of X-Men the Animated Series, Eric Leadwall. So this is, if I send this into CGC, which I actually plan to do, this will get a green label. And I won't care because what's cool about this card, if you watched X-Men the Animated Series, and you can read about it in their book here, they actually used these cards to create the cartoon. So they would hire writers, and the writers would not know about, X-Men. So they would make them go to Walmart and get a box of Jim Lee, and this is how they developed the characters for the series. And Eric actually still had his box that he used to create the animated series, and I had him sign a full team of X-Men plus Magneto and mail it to me.
Oh, nice!
That's awesome.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah,
it is.
But I was going to show you my comic. So this is a really cool comic here. We have a 181 signed by Stan Lee and a 90.
That's not cool. Not at
all. It's actually
I don't know if you saw our video on the hunt for 181, but it took us only what, 3 months for both of us to finally get that one, but we did not get a 9.0 signed by anybody yet.
No, I got to. I'm quite happy with my 5.5.
I'm going to sign my own.
This is a really cool story. Like I mentioned my twin brother a few times here, but he was on his way to a Comic-Con in Dallas, and on his way there, he answered in a Facebook message about a collection of comics. He literally pulled over the side of the road with this lady, and she had this box full of Hulk books, and he bought them real quick, got in the car, and pulled out this Hulk 181, took it to the con. Stood in line for Stan to sign it, got him to sign it, put it and gave it to CGC, and it came back a 9.0.
Dude, how come these stories? These are the stories that JP and I are always talking about. Like, don't happen to us.
I got a problem here. Okay, so you got that gold Spider-Man book or the card, and then your brother got this. So what do you guys? What kind of luck do you guys have here all of a sudden in your adult lives that you guys got these kind of? You guys, that's crazy to get this type of. That's what we're trying to get here. We haven't got it yet.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. No luck, just bliss. The newsstand spawn in a 9.8. And this again a story about my brother. He used to have a comic book shop. Okay, so that created these opportunities. But he had somebody bring in a long box of nothing but newsstand spawn ones, and I bought 4 of them. Got them graded 2 and got them signed in the previous Todd signing at CGC. Back in 2019, and got 2 9.8s, 2 9.2s, sold the 9.8s and the 9.2s, and actually took my brother to Disney with me, and then kept that one. So
nice. Cool. You got a lot of JP and I have a lot of these same. So like I have the Hulk 181, the Silver Surfer 4, the Silver Surfer 1, the trilogy I have. Yeah. The one I don't have is the Silver Surfer 3. I need to get that one.
Yeah. That one actually was like one of the last ones I got actually. Oddly enough, but I bought it and cracked it and got it graded and bumped it up a full grade on that one. And then I'm a huge fan of Blue Marvel. I don't know if y'all know much about Blue Marvel, but I encourage
JP, you were talking about Blue Marvel on your Geek podcast this last weekend, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I heard that I see something else I like there too. The white Spider-Man 2099.
I got that out of a toy. I cracked it out of a Toy Biz.
What grade is that? 9.6?
It's a 9.6 unpressed. So
I do online auctions, and I've seen 2 of them go through. The last one I saw go through had a rip on it. I didn't buy it, but the one previously was in better shape, and I think it went for $500. So that's a hard one to find.
It is. I mean, if you've ever held that action figure case in hand, the plastic it's just natural for it to bend over, and it cracks that black spine every single time. But it is a gorgeous wood graded. Now, this is my Dark Phoenix collection, some of it anyways. So when there's a set that doesn't have Spider-Man that's dominant in it, I'll pick a non-Spider-Man character to chase. And so like these are one-of-one sketch cards, all by the same artist, pack pulled. This is a green PMG of Dark Phoenix and the parallels. They're her buybacks. That's a printing plate. That's the actual plate that was used to make the cards.
How do you even get that?
It's an achievement. You had to complete an achievement on Upper Decks E-Pack to get it.
Got it. We need to check out this E-Pack website then.
Be careful.
I just looked up those the packs you said that were you could still buy them. What was it called?
The metal boxes?
The 2020 metal boxes, and I'm seeing them for like $4,700 and $6,000. So I'm like, okay, I don't think I'm gonna buy those.
Yeah, that's the case. I actually have the one-of-one for this as well, but it's going off the PSA to be graded.
So on that note, Justin, can you talk about what is the difference between the retail box and a hobby box?
Yeah, so a retail box you can get at Walmart, Barnes & Noble, Target on Upper Deck's store site, not E-Pack, store. A hobby box you can only get through distributors like Dave and Adams, Steel City, and places like that. And that you can get them at your comic book shops, but the problem is to be able to get access to the premium product, you have to commit to buying the product no one wants. So you have to buy everything from Upper Deck to get access to everything from Upper Deck.
Yeah. So on the hobby box, is it you have a higher likelihood of getting these high dollar items?
Yeah, they have guaranteed hits. Like these metal boxes have a guaranteed numbered parallel in every box. And of those numbered parallels, they can be PMGs. So.
Okay. And sorry, I got all these questions about what is this? What is a parallel?
Sorry, a parallel is when you have it's like a variant of a comic book. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
the same comic book issue with something slightly different about the cover, or maybe significantly different. But here I can give you an example. So this is an orange, numbered to 25. Okay. Let me do this without knocking stuff down. This is a turquoise of the same card, numbered to 50. This is a grandiose that's not numbered. It just says grandiose on the back and has different foiling. And this is a pink, numbered 75. And for fun, this is the poster with a remark by the artist.
So
numbered to 36.
So those are all parallels then.
Yeah, this didn't come out. This has nothing to do with the trading cards. Yeah, so these are all parallels. So
got it.
Some people would say, what a waste. You're just getting the same image with some color variation. What makes that special? Like, that's crap. And some of us like to lay them out and make a color of a rainbow, and it's a lot of fun.
There's nothing like you said earlier when you started that displaying them is the big thing. And there's no point in collecting.
I love the
can't display it.
People are like, oh, you got them by lights, and you know, what if somebody, does whatever? Like, I don't care. I enjoy it. I want to look at it.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like, I would rather pay a higher insurance premium to enjoy them versus like put them in a safety deposit box or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not taking them with me. Like, I'm going to enjoy them. I'm going to use them to enjoy more of them, and that's it.
Yeah.
Now, is this you have another room besides this one?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I have the hobby room. Well, this is the study, and the other's the hobby room. The hobby room has like 2,000 action figures everywhere, 2 more rows of comic books, and a lot of Marvel cards everywhere.
Now, do you change up what comic books are in there and what action figures, or is that?
Yeah, so I nothing stays in its spot. Like, I'm constantly, it's my therapy is to go out there, put on some music, shut off the world, and rebuild the display. I'm actually, you can't really tell when I'm live, but I'm actually rebuilding the Spider-Man display. I built a Galactus display, so I have this Galactus here, but I put another one outside, and it's a fuller display, and I had it where the Spider-Mans were, and then now I'm repurposing, replacing the Spider-Man with display.
Yeah, JP, you should look again. There's another video where he does a room tour, and you can see like he's got his action figures set up, and it's like it's really cool. Like I really dig it. Like it's not they're not just standing there. They're like there's poses and there's themes, and it's almost like a story that you put together with the act. It's really cool.
When I was a kid, I remember walking into this person's house, and he had shelves like up on the wall where you couldn't reach them, and they had all these toys along the shelves. And that the feeling of seeing that just never left me. And so as soon as we built this house, I told my wife, I said, hey, build a room, and it's going to be like a toy room threw up in a library. And that's what I've got. So I've got, I don't know if you can see these shelves back here.
Oh, yeah.
There.
Yeah.
So I got library shelves, and they have action figures in them and books. So,
is your wife at all or daughters into any of this stuff?
Wife could care less, although, for God's grace, like the content has created some opportunities that I, never saw coming, and she's learned to have like a lot of respect for that, and applauds it and pushes it, and she's now the pendulum swung. She's like, you need to do more. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing that. And I'm like, I'm just gonna have a good time. And so she does. She supports it. And then my youngest daughter is actually into the Marvel stuff, not at the level that we are, right? We're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but she enjoys watching the movies and things like that with me, and we could talk about it. She's talking to a boy. She's like, DC or Marvel? Which one is it? If they say DC, she's like, no, not interested.
I will say. So there's the two videos that I've referenced a few times. I kind of find it funny. There's the gold PMG unboxing that you do. And in that one, like Justin's kind of like teasing it the whole time. And I don't know which of your daughters are, but like the one daughter's in it, she's just like, "Come on, Dad, just show us what you got." And then the other one that makes me laugh is on the AF-15 unbox, the comic clipping card, and the ASM 300 unboxing video. It starts out with like Justin in the car, and he's like, "I got something at the house I've been waiting for." He gets to the house, he's like, one of his daughters like walks by, and he's like, "Did you see the box?" or something like that. He's all excited, and you could tell she's like on the phone, and she's like, "Get out of here with this."
It must be teenagers.
Yeah.
I actually think that was my wife.
Oh, was that? Okay. I didn't know who it was. It was definitely someone that was just like, "I don't care about your box."
She does. Yeah. What are you talking about? Yeah.
How old are your kids? Are they teenagers then?
I have a 20-year-old and a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
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 I got teenagers myself, so they think I'm a nerd, and I tell them I'm a non-nerd. So I'm just repurposing.
My kids are much younger, but I do have twins as well, Justin, like you and your brother.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Justin, so with your brother though, maybe I've not watched is he on any of the videos or anything like that? Or is he?
Yes, he has been on the videos. Not as much as I would like, but he just opened up a lounge, a sports lounge. And the night he opened, we took a box of Clear Ultra Avengers and we christened the lounge by breaking a box of Clear Ultra Avengers. And that video was posted last week.
All right, I'll check that out. Does he have a collection comparable to yours?
I just showed you the Dark Phoenix collection.
Yeah.
He has the same thing minus the printing plates and the 1-of-1 for Gambit. And Gambit has a PMG, 2 PMGs and X-Men Metal, and 1 PMG and Fleer Retro 2015. And he has all the greens from that. He has an unbelievable Gambit collection. He is very character focused. Like he doesn't waver like I do.
Yeah.
And I have to. Spider-Man's just everywhere and too expensive. I have to pick my battles with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, learned a lot tonight. I really, it's funny after we have these videos, then I start to look for that kind of stuff and I start to pick up a couple things. Like after Manu's video, I got a signed McFarlane Amazing Spider-Man 328. So I'll be looking for cards now. Hopefully, find something decent. But you guys give me the edge of this kind of stuff.
I'll give you and your viewers a warning. I haven't met anyone who can just dip their toe into Marvel cards. It will pull you all in. You have to be really careful, really disciplined, really focused. Don't FOMO, please.
Yeah.
And I know we say that, and it's gotten kind of like, well, you better say it, or you're not giving the PSA announcement to people. Like, what I'm really saying is know how you want to collect first. So Rohan, we've talked, right? You've decided it's Silver Surfer, and so now you need to focus that in, to focus that even more. Because my first year, I was very much like, hey, I was collecting Marvel cards in the 90s up to 96. Marvel went bankrupt. Pokemon became big. Marvel went away, at least in my mind. It really didn't, but it did go away. Like you couldn't get it on the shelf, right? And it just lay dormant until 2020, 2021. And I felt like I missed all those years and I had to catch up real quick. And I did. I started buying a lot and I got access to a lot. And once I got it all, I went, crud. I really wished I would have taken all this energy and brought it to a point, right? It's force multiplied, if you haven't heard the term. If you have a drill bit that's got a flat head, with enough force you can drill down, but if it's got a head to a point, you can go just as deep with less force, or you can go a lot deeper with the same force. So that's what I tell people: if you're going to come into Marvel cards, get hyper focused and apply all your energy into one set, one character, one insert. Like get it as focused as you can, and complete it and enjoy it, and then move on to the next one. You're not going to miss out. In fact, if you apply force multiplied and hyper focus, you're going to actually end up with something much more special than anybody else if you do that.
Yeah. I think kind of what I've been targeting with my Silver Surfer pieces are, I really want to get like all of the cards that are involved in the series 1, 2, and 3 Marvel Universe. That's the set I grew up on, and so like to get all of it in like PSA 10, I think would be really fun. Or
I love that.
PSA 10, CGC 10, and that either is fine.
Man. dude, focus it. PSA 10, that's fine. Like, focus it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem when I got back into this last year. There was really the only focus I had was to get an ASM 300, get it back, because I had sold it to somebody and I was like, why'd I do that? So I got that back first, and I was like, oh, I'm good. Well, no, I wasn't. I just kept going out to the antique stores and flea markets, find something big or something big to me, and I was like, oh, you got addicted to it and kept doing it. So I got a bunch of stuff. Some of it crap, some of it good. So the cards, like you're saying, focus, because I could just, I'll buy this one, I'll buy that one, I'll buy this one. But I got a PSA 7, PSA 8, a 10, and then you just wasted a bunch of money and you had no focus because you just like, oh my gosh, like what am I into now? So
you'll end up like Bilbo Baggins.
Yeah.
Too little butter over too much bread.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Justin, with the show, the SpideyHits show, do you have any like future plans of where you want that to go, or is kind of like happy where it's at and keep going, or what's your plan there?
Look, I don't plateau in life well. That's just a fact. I'm a natural builder, and it happens. It just happens. And if I'm not building, I'm on to something else. So the channel has been growing. The community around it's been growing. As far as I can tell, in terms of how it's touched me, it seems healthy, and it's like I really want it to be a blessing for people. So when I say, hey everybody, this is Spidey, and as always, I hope you're having a marvelous day. Like I know that there was a season and time in my life, even in my childhood, where I couldn't get access to this stuff, and I want the show or the channel to be a place where people can enjoy it, even though they may not have the means and ability. And when they leave, they actually leave filled, not empty. It intake, it gives in some meaningful way. And maybe it's just a smile, maybe it's just an enjoyment of the card, but whatever it is, I want it to be that. And on top of that, I want to be a bit of a force of change for the hobby, especially as it relates to, say, Upper Deck, because I do think they could do a better job. And I want to continue to kind of push that in a loving but powerful way, where they treat artists better, we get better quality cards, we get a more consistent release, and if it's necessary, that the license goes somewhere else. Like that's not a thing for me. That has to be at one place, and I want to be leading in that way, in a way that like has the hobby be healthy. Because if Marvel cards are not overprinted in the 90s, I'm not a collector today. And the fact that it's so limited and so exclusive, and that grown men like yourself who are nerds who collect can't find it, is a problem. and I want to be able to say, my nephew's birthday, I'm not making this up, it's next Saturday. And if I want to get him a Marvel card, I either have to overpay or like know the right place to go online because I know the secret path, right? But I can't go to Walmart and go pick one up like I could a Pokemon pack. And that's an issue for me. And so I want to be a part of being a powerful force that leads in the change in that way. So, that's what I want for the hobby, to continue to be a blessing to people and continue to be a powerful force to grow the hobby in a positive way.
Awesome.
That's awesome. I mean, that's what it's about. So you said earlier, it's an escape your room when you're making changes to it, whenever you're collecting, when you're looking through long boxes, when you're on eBay looking for that item that you had as a kid. It's the nostalgia, it's the enjoyment, it's the calmness that you get from it. It's not a job. For some, it's a job, but it should be a passion first. And it sounds like that's what it is for you. So
it is, but I'm totally awake to the fact that it can become unhealthy.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
so
It can be like gambling.
I want to be a place on the channel where, the excitement can lead to like you're talking about gambling. So we got to have a space where we can have conversations about it. So the Saturday morning Marvel cards episode is about waking up and enjoying these cards like it was Saturday morning. We're opening boxes and packs, having a good time. The Marvel show is a place where we have these really, it's a space and a place where we can have these conversations about what's healthy about it and unhealthy about it, and make sure we're, as much as we can, be accountable to be on the right track with it. And then, of course, I do the Marvel card news, and then I record my own personal box breaks, which are a lot of fun for me, because number one, I like to open the product, I like to share it, and I actually really like editing the videos. That's another form of kind of relaxation for me, is to sit down and create the video and put it all together and put it up and let people enjoy it.
You know what's kind of funny is, so before I got back into the hobby, my brother he's a big collectible guys in general. Whereas like now that I'm back in, I'm focusing on comics and now some Silver Surfer cards. My brother, he has some comics, he's got some cards, and he's got lots of sports memorabilia. I mean, he's all collectibles. He's very into collectibles. Anyway, so one of the big things is sports cards. And I remember like kind of me and his wife, we would laugh at him watching these videos of guys doing box breaks of sports cards. And now here I am. I watch your show, and I'm watching guys do Marvel card breaks. And it's just like, oh, it goes back around.
It does. I would much rather. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, bud.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, just from an entertainment value, I'd much rather watch my friends have fun opening this stuff than just about anything that's on TV.
Yeah.
JP, I'm gonna send you that video of Alonzo pulling that AF-15.
I'm gonna look it up. If it's on YouTube, I'll find it.
It is just so, because it's literally there's Justin, there's Manu, there's the guy Alonzo, and I don't know who the fourth person was.
Yeah, Neo.
Neo, nice, good name.
And it's literally like as he pulls it out, everyone's react. It's just like pure joy. There's no like jealousy of him. It's just pure joy for the hobby and like seeing these guys. It's very. I've watched it a couple times just because it like makes me smile. It's a great video.
Yay, that makes me happy.
That's what it's about. I mean, my kids used to watch YouTube, and I was like, "What are you watching?" Now I watch YouTube all the time, and I enjoy like stuff like that. The good part of the hobby, right? Because there are many aspects we've heard of last year and whatnot that can, take it negatively, but it's all about the positive nature of growing your channel, growing ours, growing your collection, growing the education. All that stuff's important, and having fun, right? Collect what you like, educate your friends, educate people you just met, and make new friends. And that's the cool part about the hobby.
I have 3 rules that I operate by in this space. They're the guardrails, or like if you bowl, like they're my bumpers. They keep me out of the gutter, right? Love people, number 1. People are greater than cards, or collectibles, however you want to say it. So at no point am I going to like use these cards as a justification to mistreat somebody or look down on them or talk negatively to them. So love people. People are greater than cards. And keep it marvelous. And that means something to me. It may sound silly. It may be like, oh, well, you're a Marvel guy, so keep it marvelous. There are ways in which if you're not careful, you'll find yourself talking bad about people, looking down on people, maybe saying some things you shouldn't say or being involved in some things you shouldn't be involved in. So those are things that, really simple, that it's the line in the sand for me not to cross over.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great.
No, I learned a lot today. That's why these podcasts have become more of an educational item for me as well. I'm getting back into it. Rohan, you seem to be way more into, you started ahead of me on this, just like you did back in the comics. So I got some catching up to do. So
yeah, and you're the first card guy, but then we have Fausto in a couple weeks.
Oh wow!
And so we're gonna learn a little bit more. And then actually Manu hit me up last night. He's like, you got to get Dave from West Coast Avengers, who was on your show last night. And so I messaged him today. We booked him. So yeah, like this is great. Like it's all about like you said, it has connected us to all of you through all these other people, and like then they connect us to the next person. And it's kind of like these tag videos. Do your top 5 comic books and tag 3 other people, and it just kind of like branches out, and it's great. It's super enjoyable.
It's the power of creation, man. Being creation, it creates. Creation creates, and I think it's really beautiful, especially when it's in alignment. You guys seem like you align for me, and I think that's why you had me on the channel. I can't wait to get to know JP more, Rohan more. Oh, I did a Lord of the Rings reference, and you're Rohan. Yeah, that's great. I'm glad I did that. So yeah, keep creating, keep doing the podcast, keep having people on, and it's going to be really special to see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. No, I appreciate you coming on. Had a great time. Learned a lot. I'll be checking out that unboxing probably within minutes of us shutting down, and I want to see that. So I'll put on my kids will watch it. I can hear them upstairs. Let them watch it. So, but yeah, no, thanks for coming on, Justin. Appreciate it. Rohan, anything to finish up with? Any thoughts?
No, thanks for coming on. We'll definitely have to have you on again down the line. yeah, it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. And like as I told Justin in our previous chats through Instagram, I ask a lot of questions, and he's been very gracious in responding and not being annoyed by me because I like to learn and learn by asking questions.
I only have one thing that bothers me, and that's when you think I'm bothered.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's it. I'm going to keep asking questions when they come up, Justin.
Come on.
Not a bad question, they say. Right? We learned that in school. No question's a dumb question, so keep asking. So, Justin, thanks for coming on. Thanks for everyone for watching. We had a great time, learned a lot. Hit us up on the IG, on the social medias. Check out Justin's IG channel and YouTube videos, and everyone have a great day.
Yeah, please give us a like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff.
Yep, we'll see you on the next video, whether it's 16, 17, 18. We're having trouble with our numbering, so just watch the next video, check the date, and you'll be okay. So, thanks everybody.